Exactly.
But in terms of who actually saves black lives, you'd be hard to find, maybe the fire department, an organization that does that more than the police. One of the things that has to be understood is that in middle-class black communities, like Atlanta's not a failing city, most of the cops are black.
Same with us. Same with us here in New Orleans. Most of the cops are black. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I would imagine that the rest are perhaps Cajun American or white city kids from New Orleans. There aren't a lot of Klansmen running around in NOPD outfits.
No.
I mean, come on. There's a fantasy here on the hard left.
Right.
Some hip-hop white guy from Baton Rouge secretly has a robe in his closet at home.
Well,
and it's not real. The APD is 57% African-American.
You hit the nail on the head so many times. I'd love to have you back on. Unfortunately, we're just up against the clock. Thank you so much.
Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume.
Strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
It's Thursday, the 18th of June, the year of our Lord 2020. It's the morning after the night before, and the night before is the Wednesday night massacre. If you think that's John Bolton discussing the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, you would be incorrect. It's the house cleaning at the Voice of America, and also a redirection of the U.S. government to focus on its great existential threat, the Chinese Communist Party. Stephen K. Bannon, Greg Manns, Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam. Got a full and intense show today. Particularly this first hour is going to be pretty hard. We got Maura Monahan, daughter of the late, great Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, and a fire breather on the Chinese Communist Party. She's been at this for a decade, talking about the corruption at the Voice of America and other aspects of the U.S. government that need to be cleaned out. She'll be on here today to give us her analysis of what happened last night. Also, we're going to have Dave Ramaswamy and Jay Kansar again to talk about President Trump's national security policy, because it seems to be, I think, guys, that John Bolton doesn't think very highly of the President of the United States. Do we have let's start with his clip. By the way, so NBC, the lead story on First Read, which is there, all these Politico, all these have, and we ought to start linking to these because it's a good way to get, your kind of bearings of what the establishment thinks. Its headline is Bolton's book basically frames the presidency with 4 months to go. Basically, this is what the establishment wants you to think of what Trump is. They tried the impeachment, they tried everything.
This is the 4 byline story, by the way, on NBC News website. Chuck Todd, Mark Murray, Carrie Dan, Melissa Holtzberg. Takes 4 bylines to write 700 words.
And what does it say? Essentially, was it because they all want credit? They all want credit for a scalp.
That's right.
They want credit for a scalp.
It goes through John Bolton's observations and revelations. 1, the aid to Ukraine. 2, the potentially asking China for help in his re-election effort. 3, the fact that Trump was easily manipulated by other world leaders. 4, doesn't stand up for human rights, said that building concentration camps in Xinjiang was fine. 5, uninformed about the world.
Okay. This is called the signal and the noise. This is noise, and we're going to give you the signal. He's so manipulated, we're winning everywhere. And remember, the one thing he's winning against the most is against the apparatus, the establishment of both parties, of Wall Street, of the corporatists that have led to American decline. This book is about the central reason he's president of the United States. I think you take it on the merits of book. You take it on, and to me, everyone, you're winning because once again, you're getting the kind of horrific advice, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. Remember, it's unithought, right? It's unithought. America as the world's policeman in a cop on the beat that's going bankrupt and doesn't have all the tools at disposal instead of an alliance for liberty. Alliance for Liberty comes from the great Dave Ramaswamy. Dave Ramaswamy, one of our the Hindu American guys, gentlemen we have in here all the time. There's a war going on up at the border of in Tibetan territory. More Monahan tell you that is what the Chinese Communist Party took over 50 years ago and ran another kind of Uyghurs deal there. That China says is their territory. India's not backing off. Why are they not backing off? Modi knows he's an ally of the United States of America in the Alliance for Liberty, right? As they do in Japan, as they do in South Korea, as they do in Taiwan, right? This whole thing about, he would one of the revelations, he would look at a tip of a Sharpie. He would look at a tip of a Sharpie and say, that's Taiwan, and the Resolute Desk, this is China. It's interesting that the Sharpie, he took the call. Why did Tiger Yang, who's in Pompeo's grill yesterday in Hickam, fly back and get in my grill and General Flynn's grill and Peter Navarro's grill and Jared Kushner's grill 2 days after we took the call from the Taiwanese president? Guess what? And they're sitting there going, hey, the sovereignty and territorial integrity of China is not to be disputed. And we go, I mean, maybe. Depends on what that territory is, brother, right? And that starts the complete backing of Taiwan by guess who? Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States. And I want to get this thing with competence. Let me hear Bolton's voice. And listen, I just, as an observation to the White House, it's hard to argue its lies and its classified simultaneously. I know the thing of a brilliant guy, you got to keep two opposing things in your brain at one time and be able to think. Take the books on the merits. Because the book shows you America first, and God bless John Bolton, the biggest warmonger, one of the biggest bomb him, John Bolton, right? What would Trump always say? John, I don't want to be bombing all these countries, right? I don't want to be up in Syria lighting off missiles, of which the whole apparatus, McMaster's whole crap, another joke is going to come out McMaster's book. You think Bolton's book's bad? McMaster's going to be a total rewrite of history, and here's why. First off, you got to play the competence. Play the competence, and then I'll come back to my observations. Do we have the? Let's have the initial thing of Bolton. It's the clip from ABC to make sure the whole nation watches ABC. Let's hear it.
You described the president as erratic, foolish, behaved irrationally, bizarrely. You can't leave him alone for a minute. He saw conspiracies behind rocks and was stunningly uninformed. He couldn't tell the difference between his personal interests and the country's interests.
I don't think he's fit for office. I don't think he has the competence to carry out the job. There really isn't any guiding principle that I was able to discern other than what's good for Donald Trump's reelection.
You say that you were astonished by what you saw. A president for whom getting reelected was the only thing that mattered, even if it meant endangering or weakening the nation?
Well, I think he was so focused on the reelection that longer-term considerations fell by the wayside. So if he thought he could get a photo opportunity with Kim Jong-un at the demilitarized zone in Korea, there was considerable emphasis on the photo opportunity and the press reaction to it, and little or no focus on what such meetings did for the bargaining position of the United States.
This is, it's even hard to even know where to start. Why is Tiger Yang, the foreign minister, calling for a meeting with Mike Pompeo in Hickam Field yesterday? Why are they doing that? It's because it's not going well for them, okay? They want to sit there. Why have now, in the information campaign on Bloomberg, they've got 8 senior Chinese officials, I think it is, saying, hey, we kind of want, we're accommodating ourselves to a second Trump term because he's leading America into decline, and Biden is really the guy we fear. That's information warfare. That's a total lie, okay? And Bloomberg's a good site, except when they get hooked into, Mike Bloomberg, who, in Singapore, 2 years ago in Singapore at his conference, touts Wan Shan as the most powerful guy in the world and the most brilliant strategist in the world. The same Bloomberg, I might add, I've never disclosed this, that invites me to debate the publisher of the Global Times on live national TV in Beijing at their conference, and then all of a sudden come back and say, hey, on second thought, they think that might be too controversial. Yeah, because I would bench press the guy, right? And rip his face off.
I think we have breaking news.
What's breaking news?
We have breaking news coming out of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has ruled against the Trump administration's challenge to the DACA program.
Okay, so where does this lead us? This is back to us. What was the vote?
This is literally breaking right now, so we'll get details as it comes through.
We're going to deal with this in the second part of this. That is a big bombshell. Okay, so we're going to get to that in the second hour. Big breaking news. But jump in here on anything on DACA.
You know, while we're
the
looking,
hits just keep on coming, baby. Now there's still more gasoline on the fire.
While we're talking about John Bolton, we really need to go back and look at this guy's past and what people thought about him in the past. I was reading back on his confirmation for the potential seat at the UN in 2005, where Bush actually, I think, appointed him in a recess because he couldn't get the votes. But Voinovich, the former governor of Ohio, a Republican, slams.
He was a senator at the time, right?
He says, another reason I believe Mr. Bolton is not the best candidate for the job is his tendency to act without regard for the views of others and without respect for the chain of command. Who is to say that Mr. Bolton will not continue to stray off messages as ambassador to UN? Who is to say he will not hurt rather than help U.S. relations? Why in the world would you want to send somebody up to the UN who has to be supervised? I have concerns about Mr. Bolton's ability to inspire and lead a team so that it can be as effective as possible, and I'm not the only one. Additionally, I want to note my concern that Colin Powell, the person to whom Mr. Bolton answered to over the last 4 years, was conspicuously absent from a letter signed by former secretaries of state recommending Mr. Bolton's confirmation. I mean,
all that being said,
I
hear that. I got that. All that being said, he was selected to be the National Security Advisor, and all this was known. The writing of the book that basically dumped on the Bush administration.
Yes.
And his problems with veracity. I think he's actually. Do we have the clip? I think he's actually bragged about, or at least put forward. Hey, if I need to tell a lie in the furtherance of a policy belief, I will tell. Am I overstating that, Mr. Raheem Kassam?
I think we should let the audience decide for themselves. John Bolton was on, I believe it was Fox Business, with Judge Napolitano, I think it was. Was it? Is
Judge Napolitano?
Judge Napolitano?
Yep.
I always forget the name. And we have the clip here. Let the audience decide for themselves. Let's roll it.
To make the case for secrecy in government when it comes to the conduct of national security affairs, and possibly for deception where that's appropriate. You know, Winston Churchill said during World War II that in wartime, truth is so important it should be surrounded by a bodyguard of lies.
Do you really believe that?
Absolutely.
You would lie in order to preserve the truth?
If I had to say something I knew was false to protect American national security, I would do it. I don't think we're often faced with that difficulty. But would I lie about where the D-Day invasion was going to take place to deceive the Germans? You better believe it.
Why do people in the government think that the rules of society or the laws don't apply to them?
Because they are not dealing in the civil society we live in under the Constitution. They are dealing in an anarchic environment internationally where different rules apply.
But you took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and the Constitution mandates certain openness and certain fairness.
So now think about it this way. John Bolton believes we are currently at war.
Yeah, as we do too. But here's my point is that's why you got to read the book in context. Read the book in context. John Bolton is a representative in fighting a rearguard action and essentially losing on a successful Trump foreign policy from NATO to the Persian Gulf to the littoral nations around the South China Sea, up to the Northwest Pacific. That is the chessboard that we're playing on the rise of this dictatorship, the Chinese Communist Party. And whether it's in NATO which he's all over Trump. Remember, it's the Secretary General. I was there. The Secretary General, and it's open. He talks about it all the time. Secretary General of NATO comes to the president and says, you need to help me have these guys pay. There's no interoperability. There's no maneuvers, right? And this is what Trump does to get the NATO nations to act like an alliance. It's a more robust alliance today, because all the happy talk of John McCain, all these guys, let it deteriorate. It's an open secret that the NATO countries didn't even want to do the rotation where they had to leave because it cost them more money to do the maneuvers. Trump put an end to all that nonsense. The $2 billion headquarters in Belgium. He says, why are we building this thing? We're not a centralized thing in Belgium, right? We're not going to fight Waterloo again. This thing needs to be dispersed. Okay, we're going to come back with we're going to deconstruct all of this book and take it at its face value of John Bolton's information war, right? And we're going to, and all the stuff about him being dishonest was all known. So we're going to address all this in the Wednesday night massacre. Action, action, action. The signal from the noise. Next on War and Pandemic.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Just like you, I had problems sleeping. I tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. 15 years ago, I invented MyPillow. It took me 2 years to develop because I wanted to have everything you would ever want in a pillow. I made sure that you could adjust my patented fill so you could have the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of your sleep position. I also wanted a pillow that would last, so I made MyPillow machine washable and dryable. I back MyPillow with a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. Not only that, I do all my own manufacturing in my home state of Minnesota.
I really like the fact that it was made in the USA. I think that USA products are a better quality product. I've tried a lot of other pillows, and nothing's worked like MyPillow.
I'm interrupting this commercial right now to give you deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but also my mattress toppers, sheets, and so much more. For example, you can get body pillows regular $89.99, now only $29.99, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
I used to think that sheets were just sheets. I got the Giza Dream sheets. They are the most comfortable sheets I've ever had.
The Go Anywhere pillow is so easy to just roll up and take anywhere I want to go.
Go Anywhere pillow is really comfortable, so that's what I really like. It's nice and supportive, and it's nice and small.
The MyPillow topper, for the first time, has enabled me to have a cool night's sleep. I'm able to go to bed and just get rest.
That's 3 inches of wonderful that's in the MyPillow mattress topper. It's just like a firm cloud.
MyPillow helps me get a good night's sleep so I can do my job in the morning.
Go to MyPillow.com to get deep discounts, not just on my pillows, but so much more. For example, you get body pillows regular $89.99, now only $29.99, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
What kind of world do you want to live in?
I want people to wear what they want.
I want to bring pride back to our communities.
I want us to be free to talk about mental health.
I want humanity to reconnect with nature.
I want sustainable to be the solution, not the alternative.
Make the world you want. You've got the power, we've got the tools. And now, take your online presence to the next level with the new GoDaddy Websites Plus marketing.
I'm Doug Hirsch. You may already know that GoodRx can help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions. Unfortunately, many Americans can't get to a doctor right now. The good news is that for many health issues, you can see a doctor online. It's easy. Just go to GoodRx.com, and with a few clicks, you'll be treated by a licensed medical professional, all from the comfort of your own home. Visits are confidential and affordable. Need a prescription? Your doctor can send it to your pharmacy or have it mailed to you. Get the healthcare you deserve at GoodRx.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
We're talking about the actions of Donald J. Trump versus the all the noise that's around him. NBC says this book frameworks that, hey, if you want to take it that, then look at his foreign policy. NATO's stronger than it's ever been. We finally got our allies, right, pitching in. There's big controversy about taking troops out of Germany. Listen, troops need to be redeployed. There's no problem. When I came off of sea duty back in the early 80s and went to the Pentagon, as one of the aides to the chief of naval operations. The big problem was Russian tanks coming across the Fulda Gap through the North German plain. That's not the problem anymore. Germany, under Merkel, is the business partner of Russia, right? Those two are almost organically linked. They're coupled. That's a coupled economy of the death spiral of Russia. The key is to keep Russia from being a ally to China. We ought to juxtapose two books. If you're going to buy Gates' book also, read Gates' Exercise of Power, whatever that nonsense is. Bolton and Gates are part of the apparatus that spent $7 trillion in the Middle East to get non-victories. The throwing away of American blood and treasure. And remember, this goes back to yesterday, hashtag War Room Pandemic. It's your tax dollars, it's your pension funds that are supporting all this. And guess what? It's your kids. It's your kids on the ships patrolling the South China Sea. It's your kids up at the 38th parallel. It's your kids on patrol in the Hindu Kush. Okay? It's your kids in Germany on watch in Eastern Europe. And yes, the President of the United States, I don't know if it's 25,000 or 15,000 or what, the President of the United States to refocus and let the Europeans pick up a bigger percentage of what we need in NATO. And quite frankly, NATO ought to be focused in North Africa and Sub-Saharan Africa. And the Europeans ought to have a big aid program and a big economic development program to combat, guess what? Chinese Communist Party in Sub-Saharan Africa, right? So this is all, and Trump's made us stronger in the Gulf with the Gulf Emirates. He's made us stronger than it was. Heck, we burn, take it out in your front yard and burn it like leaves, $7 trillion. What do we got to show for it? And remember, this is the entire apparatus that lied to his face in the summer of 17. You know why? I was there. Oh, it's only going to cost $10, $15, $20 billion in Afghanistan. I said, that's a lie. That's a lie. You can have a miscalculation, but that's a lie. It's going to cost you 50 or 60 billion. I'm on the record, right? 50 or 60 billion. They're lying to you. They have no plan. This is just a continuation of the failed policies of Richard Haas, the Council on Foreign Relations, McMaster's, the Hoover Institute, all of it. Bob Gates, read Bob Gates' book. Bob Gates said, hey, well, China has no allies because so dislike. Hey, dude, it's called the Eurasian landmass. It's called Pakistan. Something you funneled tens of billions of dollars to Pakistan, who's now an ally with China up in that volatile region of the world. That's not Steve Bannon saying that. That's Dave Ramaswamy. That's Jay Kansara. That's the Modi guys in India. And why is India punching back? Why did Dave Ramaswamy said, hey, guess what? This is not the India of 1962 when China tried this last time during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Why? Because Modi is a nationalist and knows that Donald J. Trump has his back. Okay? Just like Abe in Japan. Just like in South Korea. And we've got problems. Hey, Japan's got to pay more. Got some issues in South Korea. And they talk about, oh, he said it was a tip of a felt pen and the death was China and Taiwan. He's done more. I've been over there since 1977 as a naval officer. And then doing transactions, financings, running companies, owning companies in that region of the world. He's had more engagement in the Pacific and in Asia than any president, and that includes Richard Nixon. And they talk. John Bolton says, well, he was just over there having this meeting after. You got to put in context the Lighthizer-Trump deal to take care of the 7 deadly sins that would have integrated the Chinese Communist Party and China into an integrated world economy. They walked away from in May of 2019. This dinner he talks about happened about 30, 45 days later, of where they discuss about how to get it back on track, how to at least try to have a rapprochement to work with it. That's what a statesman does. You know, Steve Bannon would have been banging on the table, down with CCP. That's not, he's president of the United States. He's got a responsibility. That's what he's trying to do. And they said, oh, he's talking about his reelection. Note to self, John Bolton, do you have in there about Nixon's trip to China, what, 1972?
Yes.
Was that not an election year? Was that not because he won in a landslide, one of the reasons he opened China? Hello? Lyndon Johnson and John Kennedy and Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan drops the complete hammer on the Soviets when his polls are so low in 83 and wins by a landslide. Morning in America, 18 months later. We want our politicians attuned to where the American people are trying to do it, with also looking big picture. What is your big picture, sir? Tell me, John Bolton, you've been running around for decades with these neocons. Iran, existential threat to Israel, Iran. Donald Trump has brought the mullahs to their knees. And here's the reason. It's information and economic warfare. We're going to do a special this afternoon with Raheem Kassam, Miles Guo, about Chinese information warfare. You guys will be able to see it later and again on Saturday. Chinese information warfare, they're as sophisticated as it gets. One of the articles today says, they're nowhere near the Russians. Please give me a break. Russia's the size of New York State in the economy. It's a sideshow. The one thing you can't have is the Russians being allies to, guess what, the Chinese Communist Party. We don't want to put the old team back together, right? No. But this town, the geniuses, have all forced that. Donald Trump's got a long vision. It's called the Alliance of Liberty. He's a business guy. Also, John Bolton never got. Ask Navarro. Ask all these guys. It's economic warfare. They've been engaged in economic warfare. And not to bring up an unpleasant topic, but maybe some of the sponsors of John Bolton will look at their interest in economic warfare. Not to bring up maybe that's for another day. Just throwing it out there. Get a little marker out there. Bannon said it first. We'll get all into that later. But how did John Bolton even arrive? How did John Bolton kind of materialize? Where did he kind of come from, right? How did he even kind of walk on, how did he even kind of come onto the stage? All for another day. But trust me, there's no conspiracy, ladies and gentlemen, but there also are no coincidences. There's not a deep state. It's in your grill. You want to see the apparatus? It's in the pages of Gates. Read them. You ought to just sit there and just flip them as you go. You got Gates and you got Bolton. Just read them both. At the same time. You'll see American decline and what's taken this country down. $7 trillion. If you had spent it in the United States of America, you wouldn't have Black Lives Matter running around here. You wouldn't have Antifa, right? If you had done this, I want to go back to Mr. Floyd. Mr. Floyd wouldn't have had the pandemic in his bloodstream. What did Chris Cuomo say today? It was like glass coming in through your lungs or something like that. How bad it is? Mr. Floyd had the CCP virus. He was infected with the virus from China. He had fentanyl in his system from China. He didn't have access to a great job, a manufacturing, high value-added manufacturing job. Guess what? Because shipped them all over to China. And the police were called, or the guy at the store called him because it was something to deal with it's counterfeit currency from China. Everybody goes, you don't know they're banned. Hey, they're flooding the zone with counterfeit currency. And yes, are they using other guys in the world to do it, just like they use the drug cartels in Mexico to get the fentanyl up? It's right there in front of your face. Do you see that on the nightly news? Do you see that on NBC? Do you got that in framing it? No, you do not. You do not. And Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States, engages in full economic warfare, embraces these guys up, and you're going to sit there with all this nonsense. Oh, what's the quote? He's not fit, not competent. Bolton, please stop. He's done more right. And he's a very imperfect instrument, right? I'm the most imperfect instrument. He's an imperfect instrument. Last time I looked, our Lord Jesus Christ, the only perfect instrument we had. Everybody else this is the whole, descent of man, the garden of the book of Genesis, the predicate of the Judeo-Christian West. Is Donald Trump perfect? No, he is not perfect. Does he have some rough edges? Yes, he does. Does he come at things a different way? Yes, he does. But remember, the whole reason Kissinger would tell the reason he got the Soviets and the Chinese off foot all the time, he says, hey, the guy does, he acts a little crazy. Misdirection plays. If you look at the actions and the results of the actions, we're in a better place than we've ever been. We're winning all over the world. And here's why we have an alliance of liberty. We have Modi backing them down on the border up there in Tibet. We have the VOA cleaned out of all the running dogs of the CCP that they have done. We have Tiger Yang. Tiger Yang is what Bush 43 times. Tiger Yang. Tiger Wang. He's there kowtowing to Mike Pompeo at Pearl Harbor, right? They're now going to cooperate on all the information about the pandemic. Please tell me, Richard Haas, and please tell me, is it NATO we're losing? Last time I looked, they put more money in than ever. Let's talk about the interoperability and the maneuvering of NATO and all the lies and misrepresentation you guys told of what the real story of the deterioration of the combat capability of NATO and what Donald J. Trump, the 45th President of the United States, has done about that. If you want to have this debate, bring it. Bring it, and let's get the witness, the guy in the witness protection program, Joe Biden. Let's bring Joe Biden out here, and we want to hear his articulated. I want to hear Joe Biden stand up for 35, 45 minutes and articulate get him away from the glass. Have him look the camera in the eye and tell us, Joe Biden, what you have done, what you did in the pivot to Asia when President Obama had you as a wingman, what you did. Please, I want to see your actions, not the spin. I want to see your actions. I want to see the result of the actions. The reason the South China Sea and up on the Indian border is because of Joe Biden. We're going to return here in a moment. Mara Monahan and the folks from the Hindu American Society next.
At Leaf Filter, we're on a never-ending journey to end gutter cleaning forever. Whoa! Way too dangerous, Bill. Say goodbye to that ladder. Way too clogged, Melissa. Those black gutters are causing serious damage to your home. Look at these cracks in your foundation. Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system, will keep you safe and protect your home. Leaf Filter's stainless micromesh screen fits over your existing gutters and is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water. No more leaves or debris in your gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate, just like Paul. With Leaf Filter's lifetime warranty, we guarantee you'll never have to clean those nasty gutters again. Everybody okay with that? I should have. Call 833 Filter or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Act now and save 15% off your purchase.
From roof to foundation, the damage to your home can be devastating, from clogged gutters, leaking roofs, rotting wood and fascia, and flooded basements. Protect your entire home with Leaf Filter, the nation's #1 rated gutter protection system. Once our ladders go up, you can put yours down forever.
One of the things that I like the most is that I don't have to get back on the ladder anymore.
Leaf Filter starts by cleaning, sealing, and realigning your gutters. We then install our micromesh screen over your existing gutters, which is guaranteed to filter out everything except for water.
Trying other products is what made us finally go to Leaf Filter.
And Leaf Filter's lifetime transferable warranty makes it an extraordinary value.
Leaf Filter is going to make my home more valuable, especially when I go to sell it.
Call 833 Leaf Filter or go to getleaffilter.com for your free gutter inspection and estimate. Call or log on today and save 15%.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these flip-up tack glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our tack glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all tack glasses, flip-up tack glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your flip-up tack glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. By the way, in these uncertain times, if you're an entrepreneur, you need NetSuite by Oracle. It's the leading platform on the cloud, and over 20,000 entrepreneurs use it. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon, Bannon, and get your 7 action steps in these troubled times. That's NetSuite by Oracle, the tool you need if you're an entrepreneur. Okay, I want to now turn to anything else we got to do. For the audience, was that one rant? Was that a 12-minute rant or 2 6-minute rants?
I did 2 6. It's 2 6. Jack got a word in halfway through, so technically, I think you're okay. You're
there's one thing I can't stand on talk radio is long monologues. I sit there and go, that's not. I hate a show like that. I want to be news.
I remember how little you used to speak on the radio. You used to let the audience do all the speaking.
Well, we used to have call-ins. That's why I want to get that more.
You used to have
here.
Intelligent people.
Yeah, no. But that's why I want to get back to Vox Populi. The original show was all caller-driven because the callers were 10 times smarter than we were. I want to now go to Mara Monahan. We did have a Wednesday night, and jump in here, guys, for anything you got. Wednesday night, this news from the Supreme Court, my phone's blowing up. Not good. John Roberts, a Bush appointee, another one. We're going to get to DACA in the next hour. I want to bring in now Mara Monahan, Wednesday night massacre. We've been on this now for, I guess, almost a year, but really intensified after the pandemic. Mara, you've been fighting this for a decade or longer, for many decades. Talk to us. What happened the Wednesday night? This is a Trump action. His appointee, Michael Pack, is finally cleaning house over that rat's nest over at Voice of America and Radio Free Asia. Tell the audience what you've been. You are the voice in the wilderness on this. And here's a great thing, Mara. People said they go, Mara Monahan's a nutcase. Mara Monahan's wild. She's out of control. She's crazy, right? Guess what? On Thursday, the 18th of June, 2020, as dawn breaks over the Capitol, Mara Monahan stands like a giant, right? Everything you've been saying. So tell us, girl, what were you talking about and what's happening? Why is it good for people in this country, in China, and in Tibet?
Well, I couldn't believe it because for 15 years, all of us who worked for Radio Free Asia for a very long time were shocked by the gross mismanagement of Libby Liu, who replaced Dick Richter as director of a taxpayer-funded entity, the child of Radio Free Europe, which during the Cold War beamed news and information into countries in the Soviet bloc. And the whole idea was to beam news and information into countries in Asia that are really in the Chinese Communist sphere. And I worked on the Tibet service. And the reason the Tibet movement is so important and the Tibet issue is so important is that it's China's soft spot. It's their weakest spot. And as we're seeing what's going on in India with the border war that the Chinese have started, it's from occupied Tibet, Chinese occupied Tibet. So anyway, when my former colleague, Jigme Ngabo, who ran the Tibet service at Radio Free Asia, was doing the best work of his career, exposing the self-immolations in Tibet, which are now about 300 people go in front of a Chinese police station, pour kerosene on their bodies, say, long live the Dalai Lama, free Tibet, and light their bodies on fire. And this happened in the Vietnam War, and it was world news. Of course, it's so hard to get information out of Tibet. When Jigme was breaking these stories and the Tibet service was getting acknowledged all over the world, she fired him because she wanted to go in a different direction. Now, what was that different direction? That direction was soft news. That direction was not upsetting the Chinese Communist Party. And this also happened at Voice of America, where the focus went away from geopolitical issues to soft news, puff pieces, basically playing into the CCP's hands. And we wrote letters to the Inspector General of the State Department. The Tibet Service wrote an open letter, which is unprecedented, to ask for Mr. Ngabo to be brought back. And nothing happened. And so Mr. Pack in one day accomplished what we couldn't do in 15 years. So thank you, Mr. Pack.
Michael Pack, appointed by Donald J. Trump, accomplished more in one day than people that have been working for the freedom of the Tibetan people and the Chinese people have been able to do in 15 years. She's at the tip of the spear. Hammers it every day of her life, has devoted her life to this with many others. I've had the honor of meeting now hundreds, if not thousands of people that have devoted their life, have kind of walked away from high-paying jobs and good-paying jobs to basically kind of scrape by into we got the, by the way, we've got the pictures, we got the gallery up. You can't see this on radio, but we've got all of the pictures of the guilty. What I love about Michael Packaway did Libby Lou put a letter of resignation in the other day with the other group on July 1st. Nah, he fired her last night. Said, yeah, we don't need you sitting around here not taking down the firewall and being the running dog for the CCP that you are. You're gone. Boom, clear it out. You're out of here. A pure Trump move, John Bolton, right, who never advocated for any of this. The other thing is, was John Bolton at the tip of the spear of any of this? The answer would be no. John Bolton was like treated China as a sideshow. It's all Iran. John, note to self, Iran is a subset of the Chinese problem, okay? Right now, the oil and the money that keeps the mullahs alive because of Donald J. Trump's sanctions and secondary sanctions that's brought the mullahs to their knees. It's the reason Suleiman, the guy that we blew up, is flying around Lebanon, Baghdad, every place. They got revolts and hands with the kids because Donald J. Trump choked him down with economic warfare. What Bolton wants to do is be going in guns blazing everywhere, from Venezuela to the Persian Gulf, all over.
Everywhere
now,
but China.
Why?
Everywhere but China.
Everywhere but China. So last thing, on VOA and the firewall, do you now think that we'll finally get action on what you've been hammering on for 10 years? If the firewall is what separates the Chinese people and the Tibetan people from any information, Mara, do you think if they now take action on the firewall, that the firewall will finally come down?
Well, absolutely they could. And a lot of things have changed in terms of technology and communications. But I just want to point out another grave error that the Broadcasting Board of Governors made. It was about 10 years ago. And I was still working with Radio Free Asia as a correspondent. I wasn't running the bureau in Kathmandu anymore. But I made several trips a year to India and Nepal. And it was a decision that we also all protested, was to move away from radio just to the internet. And the reason this is very dangerous is because you're caught on an internet cafe going on Radio Free Asia's website in a place like Tibet. Well, you'll be arrested and you'll probably be tortured and you'll very likely be beaten to death in a Chinese prison with no trial and with no warrant and nothing, because a Chinese Communist Party is the only law in the land. And so this vacuum was created by defunding shortwave radio. And what filled that vacuum? China Daily, Xinhua, all those radio services. I saw them all over Asia come in, where there used to be Voice of America, where there used to, Radio Free Asia less so because it was newer, but there used to be Voice of America made a very grave error. And I do hope that now with the $800 million budget that these services have, that we will be able to apply some of the technology that we have available to break down the firewall. But let's not forget that big tech has been colluding with the Chinese Communist Party for years. It really started with the Beijing Olympics in 2008, when there was a massive technology transfer. Supposedly they needed to have it for a safe, terror-free Olympics. But really what happened is the Chinese Communist Party kept that technology and is using it to further enslave their own people. But you never read about this in the New York Times, do you? Because they still take color page ads every week from China Daily. So does Washington Post, so does Wall Street Journal. And the reason that Voice of America and Radio Free Asia putatively would not have to do that is they were not commercial entities. They were taxpayer funded, so they didn't need to. But the Chinese Communist Party got their moles in there, and Libby Lou still left quite a few people at Radio Free Asia who should also be fired. Note to Mr. Pak, please remove Khaldan Lodro, head of the Tibet service. I believe he is also softening the coverage, and he was Libby Lou's best buddy over there.
Also, the number 3, we got a whole mother. Also, the number 3 person at VOA. We're going to get to it. Amar, how do people get to your Twitter handle? Because our audience loves you, and I know your Twitter is on fire. So, how do we get to more information on Mara Monahan?
Well, it's all thanks to you, Steve, for inviting me to come on War Room Pandemic and share my decades of knowledge about the Tibetan movement, which is, again, China's soft spot. My Twitter handle is Mara Monahan1. My website is Mara Monahan 1957. And keep your eye, please, all your listeners, on what's happening between India and China from the Tibet border in Ladakh. It is very serious. There are nuclear powers. And this is why Tibet matters, because Tibet used to be the buffer between Asia's two powers. And let's see how bad this gets, because you won't read about it in the New York Times.
But you'll hear it here. Thank you very much, Mara Monahan. And a great segue to our next two guests as we separate the signal from the noise and what Donald J. Trump's really doing. I don't think you find this in John Bolton's book. Because, John, you weren't on top of things, brother. You're dealing with a foreign policy and national security policy that has now been called out as the wrong thing for the citizens of the United States, the wrong thing for the country, and the wrong thing for the world. It's what Dave Ramaswamy called, what we have now is an alliance of liberty. An alliance of liberty, where like-minded people bond together to confront enemies of freedom and liberty. And in India, what I'm so proud of, it's the world's largest democracy. It takes them a month to count their votes, right? By the way, they're showing us how to do it because their paper ballot is great because it's going to take us longer than a month to count the ballots. So they're showing us the way. Modi is, as Jay Kansara and Dave Ramaswamy tell me, the Michael Jordan of democracy, right? I think he got 600 million votes, which is 2x every soul in the good old United States of America. So I now want to bring on Dave Ramaswamy and Jay Kansara, and I'll start with you, Jay, because I started with Dave yesterday. In Bolton's book, he's got all this stuff. We only got a couple of minutes. We're going to hold you for the next segment. Is that here's what's happening. Both you guys said it yesterday. The India of today is not the India of 1962. There's a lot of reasons for that. Modi's a nationalist. The Indian people realize democracy is worth fighting for. But also one of the reasons is Donald Trump is a partner. India is our ally. And Modi knows that that the United States is going to have their back, and that's one of the reasons they're up there. And guess what, folks? This is hand-to-hand combat. This is real casualties, and India is not going to back down. Jay, you, and then I want to get to Dave.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. I think it's absolutely critical now for the United States' role in the region.
Hey, Jay, we're going to have to reconnect you, brother. We're losing you. Dave, can you jump in? You got about a minute in this segment. We'll bring you back. Let's try you. We couldn't get Jay in.
Yeah, sure, Steve. If you remember, two of the biggest rallies that Donald J. Trump has addressed are one to Indian Americans at Howdy Modi in Houston last September, and Namaste Trump, which is the rally addressed by him in Ahmedabad, India in February this year. So the Indian people overall have a huge majority of support, not just for the president, but also for the United States. They respect and honor the office of the presidency. And ever since Prime Minister Modi took office, the consensus on Capitol Hill has been bipartisan. First under President Obama, and now deepened and strengthened by President Trump. Like, India is America's biggest ally in Asia, and it will be so for the next 20 years. Just like President Nixon pivoted to China, which turned out in retrospect to be a huge security threat to the United States, President Trump's pivot to India can be the biggest geostrategic move for the next 40 years for America's security.
I tell you, Dave, can you hang on? We're going to take a break, and we'll come back and we'll get Jay's mic working as we Skype Jay Kansara in. It is War Room Pandemic, hashtag War Room Pandemic, or in the live conversation going on YouTube. That live conversation must be pretty good because I noticed Raheem fades in and out. As I think the more they talk about Raheem and how Natalie attired he is. The whole first hour of the show is on a very simple topic. The signal from the noise. You've got Bob Gates, you got John Bolton saying Trump's incompetent, Trump doesn't know what he's doing, Trump's a loser, the whole thing's a mess. The reality in the signal is 100% the opposite. We're going to continue with Jay and Dave in a moment.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this.
They stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain, and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something. If you can find something to help you get back out and be active, like Copperfit go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with CopperFit.
It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
CopperFit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
CopperFit, live limitless.
Have you or a loved one taken Zantac or another heartburn medication and developed cancer? You may be entitled to compensation. The FDA just announced that it is requesting manufacturers withdraw from the market all prescription and over-the-counter ranitidine heartburn medications, commonly known by the brand name Zantac. This is the latest step in an ongoing investigation of a contaminant known as NDMA in ranitidine heartburn medications. NDMA is a chemical that the FDA and World Health Organization both classify as cancer-causing. Now, prior to this announcement, CVS and Walgreens pulled Zantac from their shelves, citing the link between Zantac, NDMA, and cancer. If you or a loved one have taken Zantac or another heartburn medication and developed cancer, how do you fight for the compensation you deserve? You choose the right legal team that has the experience, support staff, and resources to seek the most compensation for your injuries. Call for more information and a free case review.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
On the John Fredericks Radio Network, 99.1 and 103.9 in Chicago, and of course the expanded John Fredericks Radio Network. America's Voice, the streaming platform of the Trump Revolution. They're going to be there in Tulsa to cover the entire rally on Saturday. Newsmax TV now in 70 million homes. And of course, you know, Mara Monahan mentioned shortwave radio. We're there throughout the world. IRS and Nexus, and of course in Mandarin on G News, G Media, and GTV later in the day. In an era of uncertainty, and ladies and gentlemen, if you listen to this show every day, you know between pandemic, economic inferno, financial capital markets all over the place, these are uncertain times. But remember, uncertainty brings opportunity. And what's an entrepreneur? Someone who knows how to grab opportunity and mitigate the risk around it. If you want to mitigate the risk and grab opportunity, you need NetSuite by Oracle. Oracle's number one platform in the cloud. NetSuite's now with 20,000 entrepreneurs, 20,000 companies. Make sure you're one of them. Go to netsuite.com/Bannon, Bannon. Get 7 action steps you should be taking in these turbulent times. Speaking of turbulent times, there is a conflict on the border up at Tibet where China and the CCP in the Free Nation of India are engaged now in combat. Jay Kansara, President Trump's his relationship with Modi and this kind of alliance of liberty that you and Dave talk about is one of the driving things of making sure that, what you said the other day, the India of today is not the India of 1962.
Absolutely. India of 1962 was aligned with powers that were not in America's interest. And in fact, India in 1962 lost a war to China. They would not have been able to fight China in the way they are today because they did not have the bold leadership that they do today.
So how do you think this, you know, you've seen John Bolton's book, you've heard about it, that, you know, President Trump's incompetent, President Trump doesn't know what he's doing. You've been able to see it up close and personal as a Hindu American that's been very involved in putting forward what the Modi program is of nationalism in India and how it relates to other allies throughout the world. Is your sense that President Trump's incompetent, that President Trump doesn't know what he's doing, that President Trump's unfit for office? Is your sense that he's over his head when it comes to national security policy?
No, I wouldn't say so, because by expanding his alliance with India, or the United States alliance with India, he is only forwarding a bipartisan consensus that already exists on Capitol Hill. There are bills that are in play that are supported by people across party lines to advance India to a major non-NATO ally status. He's just putting the rubber where it meets the road, frankly.
Fantastic. And I saw today that India has been announced as a non-permanent member of the Security Council right now.
Yeah, they won 187 votes. I think it's kind of critical that they're there right now. And what's interesting is India has been trying to get a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, which I think would probably be a good thing going forward. But what's very interesting, 4 members of the National Security Council sent India congratulations. That would be U.S., U.K., Russia, and France. Conspicuously absent would be the CCP.
Chinese Communist Party. Not so happy that India's got a voice. Dave Ramaswamy, I want to put the same question to you. Since you've been intricately involved in this entire alignment now in the Indo-Pacific, and as one of the smartest venture capitalists around, do you think Bolton, when he goes on ABC, says the president's incompetent, the president's over his head, the president doesn't know what he's doing, and that he's unfit for office?
No, Steve, John Bolton is just one part of the team of neocons who's been responsible for the U.S. policy in the Middle East, AFPAC, for the last 19 years, which has resulted in a spending of close to $7 or $8 trillion, and which has progressively worsened the condition of middle America. The deplorables lost life and limb and got their bank accounts drained because of John Bolton's led policy. And under Donald Trump, that's being reversed. If you remember, the only time there was bipartisan support of President Trump's intervention was when he fired missiles in Syria early on in his term, because the neocons got, crazily excited about the prospect of another never-ending war. But then, to their chagrin, President Trump ended the fight against ISIS and completely demolished them. So President Trump's all about winning wars which are very targeted and focused and not dragging them on. So I think a lot of these people who think they're experts in national security, whose policies have drained American life and treasure, they're not even fit to advise on mall security.
Dave Ramaswamy and Jay Kansara, we're going to put your Twitter feeds up. I want to thank you guys for coming on. It's been fantastic, and I think you've helped enlighten the American people from your coming on the show over months and months and months and actually explaining what's going on. And now we're seeing the Chinese Communist Party is the aggressor up there on the border and trying to push India around. This India is not going to be pushed around. The India under Modi, the India is the largest functioning democracy in the world, the India that has an ally, not just in the United States and not just in Donald J. Trump, but by the people of the United States, the deplorables. Jay and Dave, thank you very much for coming on the show. Okay, I want to go back to, I want to play the Bolton clip again. Greg, do we have the Bolton clip, or Vish, do we have the Bolton clip about the ABC, from the ABC News? Because I think we got to end, if we got time, I want to end the hour on this, because this is what it's about. NBC, Chuck Todd, they're all running around, this is going to frame the conversation going forward, that he's incompetent, he's a bad guy, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's over his head, he's not fit for office. Is that what Bolton says? Do we have that clip?
Yeah, we're a few seconds away. Let's run the John Bolton clip, ABC News.
You described the president as erratic, foolish, behaved irrationally, bizarrely. You can't leave him alone for a minute. He saw conspiracies behind rocks and was stunningly uninformed. He couldn't tell the difference between his personal interests and the country's interests.
I don't think he's fit for office. I don't think he has the competence to carry out the job. There really isn't any guiding principle that I was able to discern other than what's good for Donald Trump's reelection.
You say that you were astonished by what you saw. A president for whom getting reelected was the only thing that mattered, even if it meant endangering or weakening the nation?
Well, I think he was so focused on the reelection that longer-term considerations fell by the wayside. So if he thought he could get a photo opportunity with Kim Jong-un at the demilitarized zone in Korea.
Let's go and cut it. We're going to come back to the break. But he didn't answer the question. She said endangering the country. We'll come back with that next hour.
The hottest new razor is taking the men's grooming world by storm. And if you don't have it, you need it. Micro Touch Solo, the hyper-advanced full-body razor that trims, shapes, edges, and even shaves with micro precision. And it's totally safe to the touch. Go solo for full body control with one tool. No nicks, bumps, or ingrown hairs. Edge beards and goatees with one touch. Clean your neck, barber shop perfect. And check this out. Snap on the guide to tame growth and perfectly shape your full beard. And keep new growth stubble trimmed exactly to